Help me! Please, help me. Hello again, Generation 1 Transformer fans, and possibly those of you who know of obscure horror movie references. This is Sparkster1701, and today we're going to take a look, we're going to do my first Pretender review. We're looking here at the Generation 1 Decepticon strategist, Bugley. Bugley would only be available during the latter portions of 1988, and would probably be still available to some degree in 1989, and he would be discontinued in that year, and we would not get a replacement for him. While I don't have one of the I don't have one of the checklists to show it to you, the 1988 checklists did feature some of the Pretender figures as coming soon, and their character art would be shaded over to make it difficult to discern who they were. Later in the year, as it was closer to their availability, the checklist would be issued showing them now available. It's a shame that they would be discontinued so quickly to make room for the different Pretenders that would be released in 1989. Bugley, like a lot of the other Pretenders, catches a lot of flack due to the fact that the robots are kind of scrawny and the shells are rather on the obese side. Well, I don't see the obesity too much, but he does have a big backside. Pun not intended. Okay, we're going to look at some of the articulation for the figure. We're going to start, but we're going to do it for the robot first, since he's the more important part. So we'll get the shell out of the way here. And we'll take a look at it here on Bugley. Also allow us a little bit of a close-up on him. One of the things I don't terribly like about him is this yellow face. I mean, couldn't they have at least put in a different color for his eyes or something? I don't know, folks, but then again, this was about the time Hasbro was getting cheap on us. But anyway, as for his articulation, since he is a Pretender, he is very limited on what he can do, but he does have a fair amount. His arms do rotate all the way at the shoulder, and they do it pretty freely. He is able to lift his legs up, and he does have a slight joint here at his kneecap, but it bends forward, not backward. But since he is something of a martial artist, that does help, and he does have a joint here at his ankle. So Bugley can do at least a few decent kicks. And if he can't do decent karate kicks, maybe he can join up with the Rockettes. Then again, maybe not. Alright, before we discuss the figure, we're going to show you how Bugley here hides inside his shell, so we can get you a complete look at the shell. We start by removing his guns. Then for Bugley, you fold his arms behind him. They'll take part of his chest with him. And then you fold down his ankles. So he looks like this. And now we take the shell, pull it apart, and just lay him into the back side of the shell. Connect the tabs that are on the feet down here on the front part. Just connect those in, help connect those in, and then just lay him backward. Snap him all together in place. Then we attach his belt onto the posts on the sides of both shells. Even though he's not wearing any pants, why he needs a belt is mainly more to help hold the shell together. And then in each of his hands, we mount a gun. And there you have Bugley in his shell form, or a rejected Ninja Turtles figure. Bugley, like all the humanoid standing pretenders, is limited in articulation to the arms. The arms can rotate all the way. Although for Bugley, you got to be careful that he doesn't, as you just saw, bump into his stingers and knock his gun out. Now the stingers, they can be put up like this, but they also can be rotated down, as some of the artwork has been known to show. That way, if you really want him to be able to rotate his arms all the way, he won't smack into them. See? But I kind of like him like that, because it just makes him look more creepy and sinister. And when you're a giant insect, you're going to go for the creep factor no matter what. Now that we got him out of his shell, pun intended this time, we're going to transform him into his alternate mode. I will warn you right now, folks, it's not that impressive, but it is what it is. We start by rotating his arms straight up. I surrender. Then you fold down his feet. Then the next thing we do is we will fold his arms underneath him. Just like how we did for putting him in the shell. Then you rotate his legs all the way up. Flip him over like that. Then you'll pop out these little fins. They don't come out very far on his arms. And lastly, you will take his guns and mount them into these side holes here, which was on his chest, but are now at his sides. And there you go. That is Bugley's alternate mode. What they describe as a hover jet. I don't see it here either, folks. Trust me. But, according to Hasbro, they say he's a hover jet. And this is why you can see there's a lot of criticism over the Pretenders. This being a jet, calling this a jet of any sorts, is a stretch of the imagination by any means. However, he does, if you got the guns in snug, he does hold pretty well together, one-handed. Swoosh action can be done. It's just makes it even more unbelievable with the way he looks. Now we'll take a quick look at all of Bugley's loose parts. But before we do that, we'll start with the halves of the shell. This is the front half of the shell. The things you'll have to look out for on it is more specifically paint wear. This thing was molded in the black, so he will suffer paint wear on anything that isn't black. The green, as you can see from the mandibles and this thing on his chest, that seems to suffer from the worst, but this blue, this turquoise-like color also does suffer, especially here on the knees, and it will around the fist hole for the gun. It might also suffer some on the fist itself if he's been getting into fisticuffs. Although I will admit the pincher claw on the right hand is a nice touch. Now this bottom one here is supposed to be black, so don't think that that's one that's been damaged. Here's the rear side of the shell. Again, the same thing. There will be some paint wear on it. And then you've got loosely attached are these wings that hang back on him. They don't fold out or anything. You would think that they would, but they do not, and I think that's a missed opportunity. It might have made him look a little more creepy and imposing. I can imagine a lot of the boys would have probably used this to scare their little sisters away. Might have been spending a lot of time guarding the bedroom door, keeping her out. Unless she actually liked bugs. Yeesh. Alright, getting back to Bugley here. He comes with two of these Electro Stingers. They're exactly the same. These are these attached to the Pretender shell. They're both exactly the same. They're made of kind of a rubbery substance. They feel kind of rubbery. So you'll want to keep an eye on how they feel. You don't want them to break on you, so always kind of store them separately from him. Or at least store him in a way that they won't get beat up or bent up. We also have Bugley's belt. This is what helps hold the shell together, since the little tabs, little posts and holes that are inside the shell do gradually wear down, so this helps hold him together. And no, it is not intended to hold his pants up. This is also made of similar material to the Stingers, so it has sort of a rubbery plastic feel to it. When you handle one, check these side connections here to make sure that they aren't damaged from repeated use of putting it on and taking it off of him. Then lastly you have, oops, getting a little jumpy here on you folks. Maybe Bugley's starting to call for some of his friends. We have two photon rifles. This is one of them, and here's the other one. Now these two, while they look like they should be exactly alike, they aren't. Because on the back side, as you can see, there is a slot running through them. So there is a right gun and a left gun. They are not labeled as such. So it doesn't matter how you have him hold them, but this is something you will want to keep an eye on when you buy a loose Bugley. That there should be a notch on the guns, and it should be on opposite sides of the guns. So do keep an eye out on that if you are looking to buy a Bugley loose. Now that we got the gruesome twosome back up here on the table again, let's take a look at Bugley's instructions. This was the new style of instruction that they were doing in 1988. For Pretenders, the first picture would generally be of the shell, and then the second picture would be the robot. Of course, they would change that up from time to time, but this was basically how it all started. Or at least all of them from 88, they did it this way. Some of the others would do it in different ways. And right here you get the parts list. Notice they don't show the back side of the shell separately. They just list the entire shell as just a figure. And then down here we start off with how to arm Bugley, the robot. And then to start transforming him into that hoverjet mode. And we flip him around to the back side. That finishes the hoverjet. to put him inside the figure. Now notice in here on this spot, something they had with all of the Pretenders, they mentioned that the figure can be used to hide the robot, or could be used as a separate action figure. So it was kind of like getting two toys out of one. Unfortunately, the more the Pretenders did, that kind of went by the wayside. So some of the other gimmicks they did with the Pretenders, the action figure gimmick kind of faded. Like the beasts, they're all static. You can't do anything with them. Down here's the sticker applications. And over here we get into the tech spec unit. Down here you have how to read his tech specs, since they were still using the decoders in 1988. This would be the last year that the decoders would be needed, since in 1989 they would go with horizontal bar graphs, and in 1990 for the Action Masters they would go with vertical ones. And we had the mentioning of the robot points, despite the fact that by about this time the mail-away offers were drying up for the Transformers. But they kept putting robot points on, kind of giving us hope. The other Hasbro toy line that did this, G.I. Joe, was still offering a lot of mail-aways. If you're ever interested in learning about some of their mail-aways and whatnot, I would suggest looking at channels Form BX 257, I believe it is, and Hooded Cobra Commander 788. Those are great channels for G.I. Joe toys. And they do tend to mention about the mail-aways, and some of the variations on the mail-away ones are quite fascinating in their origins. So check those out if you're interested. Now, before we get to the tech specs on Buggly, I'm going to show you what we have. We have his box. Rare find. As you can see, we paid my brother, actually. This is his. I'm borrowing it for this review. He paid $20 to get this Buggly, and he got the box in the deal. I'd say it was a pretty smart deal out of him. This was a feature they did over here on the box art for the Pretenders, as they would show off they had the shell in the background, then they put in the robot, and then they'd show off the vehicle, and the vehicle, strangely on this, looks a lot better than how the instructions lay it out. And up here on the top, still looks kind of interesting when they show getting him out of the shell. Or at least trying to put him in, and then over here on the opposite side they have him hidden. In the middle here they show how to transform him. And they do a similar thing here on the side, show off the shell, the robot, and the airplane mode. And you can see this comes out a little bit more, this show comes out more how we had it. Unlike here on the front. Kind of a disappointment, isn't it, folks? This side here pretty much shows the same thing. Down here on the bottom, we get a real close-up Buggly. Sounds like my mail's here, folks. We'll go check that in a moment. And over here, we got the Transformer Pretender logo and the caption they used for it, as well as a list of what he came with. They list his stingers, though, as 2 antennae for some reason. On the back of the box, we have this rather impressive mural. Zoom back a little bit here, which shows Power Master Optimus Prime and a lot of the Pretenders that were available during the first part of 1988. This first part, they only released 6 Pretenders. You can see the vast majority of them here on the box. The only one that I really don't see too well is Wave Rider. I mean, we got Landmine here, and over here is Cloudburst. This probably could be Wave Rider over here. On this side, that could be him. We got Submarauder and Skullgrin. And this guy back here's, well, that's another one of the Power Masters, but they don't really have Bomb Burst either, unless he's hiding somewhere behind the insignia here. Rather impressive, but would have been nice if they had updated it to show off some of the other pretenders as well. And down here on the right-hand side of the box, we have his barcode, which for some reason we could clip out to save for something. And the robot points, he was worth 2 points. And now we'll take a look here at Bugley's tech spec. It's got the picture of him here, which is the exact same as the front of the box. It's done in purple to show him as a Decepticon. It even lists him as such. It gives his name as Bugley, and his function is Strategist. His motto is, "The greatest power is the power to control." A deadly warrior with pinpoint maneuverability in the air. Intense, mystical, and very cruel. Practices the deadly martial art of Circuitsu, which channels energy into one powerful electric blast. Electro stingers in helmet deliver 3,000-volt charges that paralyze on contact. Also armed with 2 photon rifles. Transforms into lasered hover jet with built-in forward thrust turbo boosters. Also able to pilot outer shell by remote control. Somewhat strange, but rather interesting. We lay a detector here over the grid, and we can see that his strength is 6, his intelligence is 9, his speed is 6, his endurance is 7, as is his rank, his courage is 8, his firepower is 7, and his skill is 9. All in all, he's got a lot of very high, impressive stats. Makes Bugley here a pretty powerful warrior. Okay, folks, now we get to the anticipated part of what do I think of Bugley? Well, Bugley's one of the first martial arts Transformers to be introduced into the line. So that gave us a new perspective of things in the fact that now we had actual fighting styles unique to the Transformers. As we read from his tech specs, he is a very powerful and capable warrior. So he would definitely be a worthy addition to most Decepticon armies. The big thing that goes against him is that horrendous alternate mode. His hoverjet mode is stupid. Hands down, there's no ifs, ands, buts, or ors about it. Now, while people will criticize him for being a pretender, I do think that it works well for him. As he's also, since he's listed as being able to remotely control the shell, it goes along with the play factor of being able to use both toys together simultaneously. I could see him being like a character from the Marvel vs. Capcom games that summons some of the other creatures or whatnot from their associated game to attack an opponent. But in some ways, given his deadly fighting style and that hideous look that his outer shell is, I wouldn't put it past him to possibly make an appearance in Mortal Kombat in the near future. So if any of you out there are Twitter fans, lay it on to Ed Boon. We want Bugley from Transformers to appear in the next Mortal Kombat game. I doubt it's going to happen, but hey, why not go for it? As an added bit of interesting trivia for everybody, Bugley here, strangely, while being made in Japan, was not sold there. No reason has been given as to why Bugley was not available in Japan, but he, for some reason, was skipped in the Japanese line of Transformers. So, that's another interesting thing to point out. And with that, that concludes my review of the Generation 1 Strata Decepticon Strategist Bugley. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. And please share this video with any of your friends and fellow collectors. This is Sparkster1701 saying, catch y'all later. Where's Vincent Price or Jeff Goldblum when you need 'em?